Hi everybody, this is Johnny. I'm going to be going over CalTPA Cycle 2, Rubric 2.9, and this is Step 4, Apply. And this is where you'll be doing your reteaching or extension lesson. And this is the rubric that describes the expectations for that. Let's take a look at the essential question. How does the candidate use the analysis of results from informal assessment, student self-assessment, and formal assessment to plan and teach a follow-up learning activity and provide a rationale for the activity choice citing evidence? All right. So a couple things here. What matters is using assessment results to plan the follow-up teaching, whether it's going to be a reteach or an extension lesson. And then the second piece, and that's this piece here, this is a big deal. Provide a rationale for what you're doing. Justifying your teaching or extension activity based on students' assessment results across formal, informal, and self-assessments. Big idea, again, can't highlight it enough, citing evidence. This particular rubric, 2.9 and 2.8, are all about the evidence you supply from students' work and from your assessment results. Let's take a look at level 3, expectations. All right, and just a reminder, you must meet all level 3 requirements. Missing any one of these moves will likely move you to a level 2 score. So keep that in mind as we're going through this. Let's take this apart. Musts. We'll talk about musts in a moment. Let's look at this first block. All right. Candidate applies what was learned from an analysis of results from the kinds of assessment: informal assessment, student self-assessment, and formal assessment, to plan and reteach a content-specific follow-up activity. Okay, either reteaching, the candidate provides instruction in a new way to support students to meet the learning goals of the activity, or providing an extension activity. The activity deepens and advances students' learning. All right, so the must for this one, okay, must for this one, plan a content-specific follow-up activity based on formal, informal self-assessment results. Okay, so you have to be writing about the results in order to justify what you're teaching. Right? It can't be just, this seems like the thing to follow up with. Point to things in your rubrics, look at the results you set out in 2.8 and say, based on the results of my formal assessment, I have these 5 students who need support to do this, and this is the justification for me to either do a reteaching or an extension activity. All right? Now remember, this does not have to be whole class. It could be whole class. For most folks, this will be some particular group of students that you've selected out from your assessment results to do the reteaching or the extension. All right? The next piece here, candidate provides a clear rationale for the activity choice based on an analysis of student responses and assessment results. So start here. You need to have a clear rationale for the thing that you're doing. All right? So whatever kind of activity it is, you have to have good reason for it. All right, based on analysis of student responses and assessment results, and here's the next piece, and cites evidence from student responses and assessment results that supports their choice of the follow-up activity. All right, so this one's more intense than the last one. The top part of this level 3 is just about you deciding whether you're going to do reteaching or extension. Now you've got to justify it. So under this criteria, you need to state clearly why you have chosen the activity. How does this activity clearly address a student need? And this has to be based on your assessment analysis. Okay? So this is for reteaching. You can also, instead of addressing a student need, it could be addressing the importance of extending student learning. All right? But this also needs to be based on your assessment analysis. So if you're doing a reteaching lesson, what in your analysis of your assessments tells you that this is the right thing you should be doing. If you're doing an extension activity, what in your analysis of student results on your assessments tell you this is the right kind of assessment extension activity. Most important on this one, evidence, evidence, evidence. All right. You want to use student results, you use assessment results as your evidence, and you want to use a student work as evidence as well. So we look at level 3 here. You've got the two musts. You need to have a content-specific follow-up, and it must be either reteaching or extension. The musts over here, you need to say why you've chosen that activity. You need to cite evidence, and I'm adding these two. You should include assessment results and student work. So you can see these are the things that would be the requirement for meeting level 3. Think of this as a kind of checklist for yourself to see how well you've done by level 3. Let's take it a step up and see what level 4 looks like. All right, and as you can see here, as in past, level 3 asks so much. Level 4 just asks a bit more. So let's take a look at this together. Candidate provides specific adaptations or accommodations during the activity for individuals to increase access and meaningful engagement to content-specific learning goals. And here's the other piece. Whenever there's an and, you need to make sure you do both. And provides rationale for these adaptations or accommodations. All right? The musts for this level 4, in reteaching of the extension activity, make accommodations and adaptations for individual students for access and engagement. All right? So I put extension activity. I do mean both extension and reteaching. All right? So in reteaching, this should be an or, apologies. In reteaching or extension activity, make accommodations and adaptations for individual students for access and engagement. All right? So make sure that you have both of these, accommodations and adaptations, and this time you're really thinking about individual students. And the two things they want you to focus on are access. How are students able to get into the lesson? Okay, make sense of what you're offering them, but also engagement. What is it that they're able to do for themselves during your lesson that reflects or enables them to be fully engaged? So access and engagement. All right? So you can think about this as a deepening of a regular kind of lesson, paying attention to individual students and what will bring them into the lesson and what will make them engaged. All right? The second piece of this is the bottom piece, the and statement. Give clear reasons for your accommodations and adaptations, and again, use evidence. All right? So level 4 is all about drawing kids in, individual kids in. You're paying attention to who the particular students are in your engagement, in your reteaching or your extension lesson, and you're teaching so that they can be involved and have access to important ideas. Let's take a, so for level 4, there are 2 requirements. Let's go to level 5. Okay, to be ambitious, we could think about level 5 now. All of levels 3 and 4 plus. Let's look at this block together. A follow-up learning activity, whether a reteaching or extension activity, is focused on deepening understanding of the content knowledge, skills, and or abilities through higher order thinking processes, analysis, synthesis, evaluation, interpretation, or transfer. And always with the and, so be ready for the and develops academic language that clearly supports access to content-specific learning goals. This one's pretty straightforward. The musts, you have to have attention to higher order thinking in your reteaching or extension activity, and you need to have attention to academic language in your reteaching or extension activity. So the move from Level 4 to level 5 is not great in this one. You just have to make sure that these two things are evident. All right. So the evidence for this particular one, sources of evidence, how you describe your activity. You can imagine in your description of your activity, you're very specific about where the higher order thinking concerns will come up or where you will be addressing academic language. You also have places where you might talk about how you tailor the reteaching or extension activity for individual students. All of those things are good things to do in the description. And of course, to do the same thing within the annotations you do for the video clip. You have a video clip for your follow-up lesson, either reteaching or extension, and where the points at which you are doing these good things about deepening understandings, attending to academic language, pushing or accommodating students based on individual needs or interests. Those are all things that you can annotate in your video clip. And those will make your work strong for this particular rubric. So this is the last of the rubrics for Cycle 2. I do hope this has been helpful to you.